What's up, guys? It's the Kingpin Games, and today we're going to be talking about a Zelda game. And you guys know how much I like Zelda games. The series I told you is my favorite series of games of all time. And that's saying something because I've played a lot of series of games, and I mean, like Assassin's Creed, Mario, Final Fantasy, all of that. Zelda is number one. So, but this game is it bothers me in the gaming community and how it's so blacklisted. Like, this is the black sheep of the Zelda family. There's a few black sheeps, but this is the one that bothers me. There's another that I'm gonna talk about later too in another video, but this one is a 3D Zelda game, and I'm pretty sure everyone knows where I'm going. The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Yeah, this was actually one of my favorite Zelda games. And I don't understand the problem everyone has with it. I get it. And I motion controls. But I'm going to get into everything about the game and why motion controls can be overlooked, because for one, I enjoyed the motion controls. It actually brought something different to the game. I was really surprised that so many people didn't like motion controls, because it's like that was my favorite part about the Wii. Wii Sports or Wii Resort is still like one of my favorite games ever, just because of motion controls. And at this point, games like Mario Tennis and all of that, you should be able to play it motion control, because I'm not paying $60 for that if you can't. But anyways, back to Skyward Sword. So that's the number one reason most people didn't like this game. Now, before I get into the good stuff about this game, I am going to go over like a lot of the flaws, and there are plenty. I won't lie about that. There are plenty flaws with Skyward Sword. So number one, the first flaw I'm going to talk about is items. Okay, not Link's items, but items that you can pick up, like the little jelly glob you can pick up off the ground. Now, every time you reload the game, when you pick up an item, it has to show, like what you get when you first grab the item. I don't know why that's the thing that they never fix, but it was so annoying. So like, let's say you grabbed a Deku Seed, right? And you turn the game off and turn it back on again, even after you save, and you grab it, it still shows Link holding it in the air like you got it for the first time in the game. And to me, that was the most annoying thing about the game. Now, I can understand why, you can say, okay, this game sucks. Like right there, that point right there can really just make you be like, whatever. And I wouldn't hold it against you, because that's very annoying. Number two, Fi or Fee, whatever you want to call her, is worse than Navi. A lot of people hate Navi, but for the most part, Navi is like one of the coolest fairies you get, or sidekicks you get, because in the beginning, yes, Navi stops you like 2 or 3 times to tell you what's going on. She's trying to tell you about the game, and I know she's like, hey, listen. But after that, Navi never stops you. She'll just be like, hey, listen. But she don't stop you. Like, to me, whenever anything makes a game take longer than it's supposed to, it kills me. And Fi stops you mid-game to tell you about something. I don't like that. Don't stop me. If I wanted to talk to you, I hit the button and I talk to you. I don't care if you really got something to tell me. Just let me move. Alright? So I can understand that point. Next, it's about the maps and the areas. Okay, this is flaw number 3. The maps and the areas are fine. I like it. The atmosphere is great. It's cool. It's new. It's fresh. It's clean. Wow, whatever. For some reason, you have to go back to each of these maps 3 times. Why? Why would you do that? Why would you make me go back to these maps 3 times and do something different? I understand, like if it expanded, like the desert place really expanded. It expanded to where you had to go in a different direction. But when you went back to the forest 3 times, it wasn't expanding. You just had to do something in the forest 3 times. One time was getting notes out of the water or some stuff like that, you know. That's just stupid. the no simpler way to put it than that's just stupid. I mean, go back and look at like Ocarina of Time. Okay, maybe you had to revisit the forest, but the forest, it expanded a little bit. You had to go to the next area. Same way with the fire, same way with the water was just a completely different place. And then every other temple after that was completely different. You know, you went into 9 temples in Skyward Sword, but all in the same 3 areas, and they didn't really expand except for the desert, you know. And number 4, this is the biggie. This is the biggest flaw of the game. Okay, so it looked like they went and took some old Mario game style type of stuff. You know what I'm talking about, when you have to verse the same boss over and over and over again. You've seen it plenty of times in Mario games where you verse the boss, you beat it, and for some reason you have to continue versing the same boss. And the imprisoned on Skyward Sword was the most annoying thing to fight, but for some reason you had to verse it like 8 times. First you versed it, it had feet, then it was feet again, then it was feet and hands, and then it was wings. Like, stop it. Stop. After you sealed it the first time, that should have just been it. Maybe 2 times. Cool. It comes back with wings and hands, whatever. But to have you out there fighting that thing so many times, that was just a mistake. It was stupid. Zelda, do better. I don't like it. This 5th thing kind of might not be a flaw, but it could be. It's just about how long it takes to fly from place to place. You know, the bird is pretty slow and the boosts are kind of out of the way, so you know that could be pretty annoying flying from place to place. But that's our cons list right there. You know, the cons aren't too bad. Some of them can be game breaking. I mean, to the point where you don't want to play it. I mean, I wouldn't say that it will get to the point where you don't want to play it. It can get to the point where you would want to put the game down, you know, after playing for an hour. Yeah, especially with how long the beginning takes on Skyward Sword. Even, it's not as long as like Twilight Princess or anything, but it's still pretty long. But yeah, now let's get into the pros of Skyward Sword. Number 1, motion controls. Yeah, and I know to a lot of you think that's a con, but to me, it really made the fighting a lot harder. I mean, not extremely hard, and I understand that it can be annoying sometimes if you just want to kill the enemy, but it made you actually stay alert and pay attention. The only thing that I wish that they put in there was to add some of the like attacks from, let's say, you know, Twilight Princess or Wind Waker. You know, some of those cool attacks where you spin around the opponent and slash them or something like that. That would have been cool to do with the motion controls. It would have been so cool, and it would have made the fighting so much better. But it was their first time with it, so I guess it's okay. Moving on to the next, I think the puzzles in this game was great. Why? They wasn't great because they were difficult or anything. The puzzles in this game were great because they were simple. And I know that sounds stupid. It really does sound stupid, but you got to hear me out on this. The reason why the puzzles were so good because they were simple was because Zelda taught us to think like it has to be harder than that. You know what I'm saying? Like that, the first dungeon, when you go up to the statue and it's just the eye and you have to spin your sword in a circle, Zelda so far taught us to think differently about puzzles. So like I was stuck on that for like an hour and a half just because it was so simple that I would have never thought that was the solution. You know, and that happened in a lot of times throughout the dungeon. And you'd want to know how they know they taught us like that to think the puzzles are more difficult, because they put a statue in the game where you can go and find out what to do. So that means they were self-aware. They knew you were going to get stuck because of how they programmed our minds to think more advanced. And now they made the puzzle so simple you won't think that way. It's crazy. It's really crazy. And that statue saved me a few times. It really did, because sometimes I'm just like, man, I don't know what's going on here. So yeah. And I think the statue's a pro too. That is a pro, because I mean, you didn't have to look up cheats. Some people didn't even know cheats existed back then. But yeah, the statue being there makes so much sense. Just go back, even though it can be out of the way. I mean, if you're going to have to cheat and figure out what to do, you should have to go out of the way. So yeah, that's my third pro, even though it's kind of iffy. Fourth pro would be the stamina bar. The stamina bar. It is so important that Link can run. It is so important that Link can run, because when characters, and this is what games need to understand, even RPG games, whatever type of games, whatever, we don't want to go the original character speed, because y'all always program it at a very slow pace. I don't know if y'all do that because y'all don't want us to miss anything, or if that's just what you do, but we want to move faster than y'all let us move faster. That's just it. And that's the easy pro right there. And the next one was the items. I liked just about every item they put in the game. The arrows will always be my favorite item, but they also had the beetle, things like that. It was pretty cool. I think the pouch idea was pretty cool. You had to have your items in the pouches, and you can get more pouches. You could even hold like medallions where you can get an extra heart. Them type of stuff. All of that was cool. I really enjoyed that. And the last pro is that the final boss looked like Madara, or Madara, whatever you guys want to call them. If anyone watches Naruto, you know what I'm talking about. It looks like Madara. I mean, that's just within itself a plus. Guy was a freaking maniac. But no, for real, on a serious note, I think each boss was great. Like, this was some of the greatest boss fights that was ever in Zelda. And that's probably an unpopular opinion, but it is true. Like the little rolling bomb thing, that was just a cool idea. And my favorite boss is actually the guy with the little pointy blade. I forgot his name, Geridium or something like that. Because you had to attack him in exactly the right direction, and it really used the motion controls pretty well. I think that it was a pretty cool fight. Honestly, it was a bit harder than the final fight, because when I went to go fight the end fight, and you gotta run through all the zombies and stuff, he beat me down to one corner of a heart. He really beat me down to one corner of a heart. I had no fairies, nothing. I used all of them on him. Like, that's how hard he was. He beat me down to just a corner of a heart. But the final boss, I beat him without getting touched. And so, it's crazy. Oh, and I forgot this pro as well. The temples. I really like the temples. The temples were great. The atmosphere was great. They made a lot of sense. It was a lot of fun, like with the ship, when the ship started sinking and everything, and you had to get out. The only part I didn't really like was the second grass temple, because spiders, they're huge. At least they don't look like Twilight Princess spiders, but they're still huge. Why would you make spiders that big? Stop it. Zelda, I don't know what's up with them. They purposely put huge spiders in every game because they know that's what people fear. Like, stop doing that. No one ever said it was okay. It's also worth mentioning that I did think the story was great. And that's not usual for me saying for a Zelda game, because Zelda don't usually have a story. It's more so about the adventure. But I think with Zelda and Link growing up together, it was a pretty cool story. It was told in a different way. It was pretty funny. I mean, Link actually had a bully. Who saw that coming? I think it was pretty hilarious, and that bully actually had great character development. When did Zelda ever have character development? And man, the Twilight Zone. Don't get me started on the Twilight Zone. And I know Twilight Princess had a Twilight Zone, but this Twilight Zone was special. I mean, you want to talk about some nightmarish type stuff? It's crazy, because when I played this as a kid, I hated the Twilight Zone, but I loved it at the same time because it was such a new, fresh idea. But when when those things start chasing you though, the fear that you get as a kid is different. Trying to tell you. But yeah, I think that was a cool idea. I wonder if that's ever going to be on another Zelda game, because it all made sense as this Zelda game being the first one, because of like the trials and the Demon King later becoming Ganondorf. Like, it was all, I'm telling you, this game is a lot better than you think. And you got to give them their bonus points for having a pedophilish villain, because everyone who watches anime knows that the villain always have to be kind of pedophilic. They'll never be the final boss for that reason, but you know, Orochimaru type of guy, they always have to be there, and then the final boss comes later, and the final boss usually looks like how the final boss on here looked, like I said, like Majora. So they get bonus points for that, for following the formula, you know. But anyways, guys, I'm pretty sure I could think of some more pros, but you get the point. I just think that this game shouldn't, I mean, I'm not saying that it's the best or anything, but you know, I think that it shouldn't get as much hate as it did. I mean, it was their first time with motion controls, and at least they, you know, did some great stuff with it. You know, just a bit too many flaws. But anyways, this has been the Kingpin Games, and I am out. Bye.
I'm trying to make it see, I put you on the scene where everybody's seen. I know you got your own, but tonight it's on me. Where else would you wanna be? It's up here with me. Kill 'em. I'm in your face, yeah. I break the safe, yeah. Diamonds in place, yeah. Girl, know your place, yeah. Girl, watch my bank, yeah. You know I'm hella loud, don't even lace, yeah. Don't trust nobody here, cause they don't play it fair. And if it is a problem, then we can take it there.